The entire galaxy watched in astonishment. Commander Zara stood on the bridge of her exploration vessel with her silver eyes fixed on the blue planet below and her breath caught in her throat for the first time in her 300 cycles of life. Because this world was different from anything the Galactic Council had ever discovered. Earth, they called it, and the third planet from a yellow star in a quiet arm of the galaxy that no one had bothered to explore until now. The sensors showed impossible readings, and organic life covered 70% of the surface with complex ecosystems, thriving in conditions that should have been lethal. And most shocking of all, there were cities and structures and signs of intelligent civilization. Zara felt her purple skin flush with excitement as she turned to her second officer named Kira, who was studying the data streams with wide, golden eyes. "This changes everything," Kira whispered, and her voice trembling with the weight of discovery, because the humans, as they called themselves, had developed technology without any guidance from the Council and without even knowing the galaxy existed beyond their tiny corner of space. The Council had strict protocols for first contact, but Zara knew this was no ordinary situation, and these humans had built ships that could leave their atmosphere, and they had split the atom and created global communications networks, all while completely isolated from the thousands of species that filled the stars around them. How is this possible? Zara asked herself as she watched the feeds coming from Earth, and she saw massive cities with billions of individuals living together, and ships moving across oceans, and machines flying through the air with such casual confidence that it made her heart race. The Galactic Council had spent millions of years spreading civilization through the stars and guiding primitive species toward enlightenment and protecting the weak from the predatory races that lurked in the dark between worlds. But these humans had done it alone. Zara accessed the cultural database that her science team had compiled from Earth broadcasts, and what she found made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligent life. Because humans were violent and they fought constant wars, and their history was soaked in blood and suffering, and yet they also created art of stunning beauty, and they composed music that made her want to weep, and they told stories about hope and sacrifice that resonated with something deep in her soul. They are contradictions, Kira said, as if reading her thoughts, and they destroy and create in equal measure, and they should have wiped themselves out 100 times over, but somehow they keep surviving and keep pushing forward. The council chambers filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy, and they all watched the same feeds with expressions ranging from fear to fascination, and the debate had raged for days about what to do with this unexpected discovery. Some wanted to quarantine the system and prevent humans from ever reaching the stars because they were too dangerous and too unpredictable to join galactic society, and others wanted to study them like laboratory specimens and dissect their culture to understand how they had achieved so much without help. But Zara had another idea. She requested permission to make direct contact and to meet with human leaders and offer them a place among the stars as equals rather than subjects, and the council denied her request 3 times before finally granting approval because they were too curious to resist and too afraid to wait. The ship descended through Earth atmosphere on a clear morning, and Zara chose a remote location in the American wilderness where her vessel would be visible but not threatening, and she waited with her small contact team while her hearts hammered in her chest. The human delegation arrived within hours, and they came in primitive ground vehicles with armed escorts and cautious expressions, and the woman who stepped forward to greet them had brown skin and dark eyes that reminded Zara of deep space, and she introduced herself as Dr. Linda Martinez, and her voice was steady despite the fear Zara could smell on her. Zara extended her hand in the human gesture of peace, and Linda took it without hesitation, and in that moment something shifted in the galaxy, because these two beings from worlds that had never known each other found common ground in simple courage. The talks lasted for weeks, and Zara learned that humans were not just warriors, and they were also dreamers, and they had spent centuries looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone, and now they had their answer, and the joy on their faces was something Zara would carry with her forever. She met with human leaders named Amanda and Karen and Lisa, and they shared their hopes and fears about joining the galactic community, and they asked hard questions about politics and trade and security that showed a sophistication Zara had not expected. The council watched everything with growing amazement because these humans negotiated like veterans, and they refused to be intimidated by species that had mastered space travel for millions of years, and they demanded respect rather than begging for scraps, and somehow they got it when Zara presented the human delegation to the full council on the Capital World. The chamber fell silent as Linda Martinez stood before thousands of alien species and spoke with quiet confidence about humanity's dreams of exploring the cosmos and learning from other civilizations and contributing their own unique perspective to galactic society. There were protests from the militant factions who saw humans as a threat, and there were concerns from the peaceful species who worried about human violence, but the vote was unanimous because every species in that chamber recognized something special in these strange mammals from the isolated blue world. They had fire in their souls, and they had survived impossible odds, and they had built something remarkable from nothing, and the galaxy needed that kind of strength. Zara returned to Earth as the official ambassador, and she spent the next cycle helping humans prepare for their entry into galactic society, and she watched with pride as human scientists and engineers worked alongside alien specialists to upgrade their technology, and as human diplomats learned the complex web of alliances and rivalries that shaped galactic politics. But the most remarkable thing she discovered was not human intelligence or creativity or adaptability, though they had all of those in abundance. It was their capacity for hope, even after learning that the galaxy was full of species that could crush them with ease, and that there were threats lurking in the darkness that made their worst nightmares look like pleasant dreams, and humans remained optimistic about the future. They believed they could make a difference, and they believed they could learn and grow and become something greater, and that belief was infectious. Other species started to remember what it felt like to dream and to push boundaries and to take risks, and the galaxy began to change in subtle ways that would take generations to fully understand. Zara stood on Earth one last time before returning to her homeworld, and she looked up at the sky with Linda Martinez beside her, and they watched as the first human starship lifted off on its maiden voyage to the stars. That ship carried a crew of humans and aliens working together, and it bore the name Hope as a reminder of what Earth had given the galaxy, and Zara felt her heart swell with emotion because she knew this was just the beginning. Galaxy had found Earth, and Earth had found the galaxy, and neither would ever be the same. The entire cosmos watched as humanity took its first steps into the infinite, and everyone knew that something extraordinary had begun.